What's going on, moviegoers? Welcome back to another video. This is Going to the Movies. We're Ryan and Virginia. She's in the car, but she'll join us in a bit. Today we are going around and visiting the locations from my favorite Coen Brothers movie ever, and one of my favorite movies of all time, A Brother, Where Art Thou? We're going to get into why I love it so much. We're going to get into some behind the scenes stuff. We're going to go to some new locations that I don't think you've seen in a YouTube video before. Talking about the radio station spot, the auditorium where they sang Man of Constant Sorrow, the restaurant with John Goodman. Lots of cool stuff you're not going to want to miss. So stick around and let's get into it. Here's our first stop, and this is Tildeburg. It's a historically protected cabin that was built in the mid-1800s, and it wasn't always here, but it was here when they filmed A Brother, Where Art Thou? And this is from the opening sequence when they've escaped from prison, but they're still attached by chains. And they are chasing a chicken around behind the cabin, and you can see it just over there, back behind this stuff. Somebody does live there, and I didn't want to bother them again, but last year I got in contact with them and they allowed me to go in the driveway and film some shots. And there's a swimming pool now where the chicken catching was, and here's the shot that I matched up. So here's the crazy thing about this location, and look how beautiful these woods are. You might recognize them from the scene where Delmar keeps offering gopher to Everett.
Gopher Everett?
And they're sitting in a little cemetery. You may not have noticed, but behind them are graves and a cemetery gate. And those props are sitting in these people's driveway. So they told me to look out for that. And you can actually match them up because all of them are sitting there. You can match them up to the ones in the movie. What you'll notice in that scene when they're eating gopher is that the woods kind of change. You can see a lot of Spanish moss here, and then they cut at a certain point to the different woods where they do the baptism scene. We're going to go there next. You can actually kind of see a difference if you pay attention in the way the woods look. All right, guys, we've just arrived at the location where the baptism scene was filmed, and we're gonna go in there and match up a few shots, which, believe it or not, you can do with a couple of things. But first, I wanted to give some tips on finding this place. It was filmed at a lake called Alligator Lake. Now, if you search that on Google, you're gonna get a different one farther north in Mississippi. That is not the correct one you wanna go to. You wanna search for the one that's just above Vicksburg. And this road right here is called Long Lake Road. So if you come up from Vicksburg, the lake should be on your right when you're driving up. And when you get to this rusty gate, this is where they filmed it, just in there. So this is how we pinpointed the exact spot. This is about where the crowd walks in to get baptized in the group. And we know that because if you look at these trees here, there are 2 cypress trees here, and then one just to the left of it. That is a part of land that is sticking out into the water, and then it continues on back that way. You see all of that behind them as they're all walking into the lake. The first time I ever saw this movie was how I saw a lot of movies around that time period. I was about 10 when this came out, and my dad, he was big on downloading movies from Kazaa, and so FBI, I think we're past statute of limitations, at least hopefully we are, but I saw a lot of movies that terrible, grainy. I remember we used to be like, you know, Dad'd be like, I got this new movie for us to watch, and we'd be like, okay, what's the quality like? Because it would be so bad visually, and the audio was terrible. You could tell it was some guy filming the movie theater screen with a camcorder, and you'd see, like, on A Brother, Where Art Thou? I specifically remember you could see a guy getting up to go to the bathroom and stuff like that, the silhouette. And so that's how I saw that movie for the first time. So this scene was shot on July 9th, 1999, and according to a photographer who was an extra in the scene, it was very, very hot that day. That guy's name was Mike Calnan, and he was an extra in this scene. He was an extra in the scene at the auditorium, and he was in the political rally scene. He had photos from all of those places. I'll link his website if you want to see some more of that behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, this is Alligator Lake, where the baptism happened. Here's the WEZY radio tower, but let's try again in a couple of days. right, guys, this is way better. Sunny day out here, a little bit hot, but we're out in the absolute middle of nowhere. It's called Valley Park, Mississippi, an unincorporated township, though they do have a post office here. I think they're known for tornado activity, but this is where they filmed the WEZY radio station scenes. The station's gone now, but the tower is still here. Let's match up some shots. So I don't know why they would have torn down the set of the radio station and not the tower. Maybe it was some kind of thing where the town asked them to leave it up, or maybe it was just already here. I don't know. I don't think it was because it wasn't rusted at the time. But here's a fact about Man of Constant Sorrow. The Coen Brothers wanted George Clooney to sing on that track with his real voice, and they had him in the studio and he just did not sound good. So they ended up replacing his voice with Dan Tyminski's voice, the guy that was male vocals for Alison Krauss's band. He also had an album come out a couple years ago that was like a bluegrass EDM crossover. It's really terrible. It's called Southern Gothic. If you want to hear a good record called Southern Gothic, check out Rod Malone's song, now known as Rod Gator. But yeah, the station, WEZY, sitting right here. What a cool place to be standing. Now we're in Yazoo City, Mississippi, and this is where the bank robbery scene was filmed. Actually, 2 scenes were filmed here. We'll get to the second one later, but first, we're gonna do the Babyface Nelson bank robbery, and this is where they parked the car. They got out right here, and you can see that mural on the right side of the building, the 5 cents, still there. It's faded, but it's still there on the side of the building. All the stuff that was on the front of this is different, but you can see the Y from the word company on that building right there in the movie. And then they get out of the car, they walk in this direction, and here is the Bank of Yazoo City. Babyface Nelson was based on a real gangster. His name was Lester M. Gillis. He was a pretty bad guy. He robbed tons of banks and he killed a lot of people while he was doing that. Very Bonnie and Clyde-esque, even up to his end. The FBI killed him in 1934 when he was only 25, which is interesting because 1934 is actually 3 years before the movie takes place. In case you're wondering what's inside, that's about all I can see. The blinds are pulled up here at the bottom, but not much. Where are we at?
Hazlehurst, Mississippi, at the general store.
Here we are. So a family approached us when we pulled up here, and they said, "You guys here for the Brother Arthur spot?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he was telling us all about this building. He used to come here as a kid. The guy that owns it, his name is Templeton, and there's a sign on the other side that I'll show you, but that's actually what they called it in the movie as well. Very, very cool. He said people come by here at least once a week to see the spot, which I find interesting because it's only in the movie for a quick period of time. It's in a montage, and the guys go into the store, and as they're coming out, something spooks them. I think some new guys coming in, and there must have been a wanted poster on the wall or something, and they didn't want to be recognized. So they go across here, get in the car, and then they drive off in that direction. So as we're looking at this, you can see they touched it up to make it look more period accurate. These columns here were fixed up, and then the gas tank was switched out, but you can still see the concrete that it's sitting on. Drink machines, obviously not there, but behind it, there's that little structure that's visible in the movie. And another thing he was telling us is that there's a tank back here. You'd see it right there. That was all covered by facades and camouflage and all sorts of things. So that's pretty interesting. So right here is the shot that you see where they get in the car and then they drive off down that way. So we're in Delo Water Park, and it's got a cool little campground. Lots of stuff to do here, and all you have to do to get to the Brother Where Art Thou spot is follow the sign. So you'll come in from there, you'll take a right, and you'll go to this canoe boat ramp, take a left, and you can't miss it. My Brother, Where Art Thou is such a special movie to me because for whatever reason we were able to get my mom to sit down and watch it. And I say that because she's very anti-Hollywood. But we got her to watch this movie and she ended up loving it. So getting her to watch it and her liking it was just a rare thing. And my family was just so obsessed with this movie. We would quote it every day. R-U-N-N-O-F-T. We thought she was a toad. Do not seek the treasure, all that stuff. And I think it's because she is really into, you know, Depression era, Americana kind of style. She grew up in southwestern Virginia, so she's just into that sort of thing. It was kind of like the generation before her, so very positive experience watching this movie with my parents and my brothers. And now we have arrived at the Sirens scene. So when our heroes approach, Everett, Pete, and Delmar, they come down this way. We can see that rock formation right there behind them. They walk down this way, and I think the reason they took that shot so far over is because there's a more modern looking bridge way off in the distance there. That is where they approach from, and this is where we see the Sirens. So I'm gonna walk over here to try and get that exact angle, but as you can see, the water level is a little bit high today. There was a big thunderstorm, and this is one of the issues with this location. If you want to visit, make sure to check the weather because oftentimes the water will be covering all of the rocks here, and as you can see, it's brought some of the sand up as well. So we're not going to be able to match up where they were laying or anything like that because these holes, it's so hard to do with different levels of water and being covered in the sand. But I'm going to walk across very gingerly to try and match that up. Very expensive equipment I'm carrying here, so I want to make sure I don't slip. All right, so this shot right here is where the Sirens, we see them. And I think the rocks that they were sitting on, they don't look to match any of the other stuff. I believe those were placed there. I mean, you would see the rocks if those were actually from here. We look at these trees here bending over to the right side and this little island thing that's behind them. And that's how we know that this is the correct spot. There's one more angle from them. I'm gonna walk this way. Fortunately, it's not so high I couldn't get to these spots. But about right here is another angle that we get of them. Basically the same thing, just a little bit closer and more to the right. Now, last year when we came, it was October 6th or something like that. It looked pretty identical to how it did in the movie. And I did take some video, thinking that in the future there's a chance I might start a YouTube channel. So I'll show you some of that footage, just to let you see what it looks like when there's not raised water. Now we are standing in Canton, Mississippi, which is one of those towns with a historic town square, kind of like Covington, Georgia, or Woodstock, Illinois. There's been a few movies that have filmed here. My Dog Skip, A Time to Kill was filmed a lot around that courthouse, and you also might recognize it from being in one of the big scenes from My Brother, Where Art Thou, the political rally. But there's a secret location here in Canton that if you don't know about, you're about to learn. It's the first scene where we meet John Goodman, the Cyclops character, and we're going to go into the Canton Tourism Office and see it right now. All right, so here is the restaurant where we see John Goodman. Last year when we came, I walked into the tourism office, which is right through that archway. By the way, that archway and these columns were added for the movie, and they've left them here, and they also left the paint scheme the same. But when we came in, I just, on a whim, showed her the screenshot and asked her, do you know where this was filmed? And she said, yeah, follow me. And she went around this corner, and then my mind exploded because we were all of a sudden in the scene from the restaurant. Now, this column is where they were eating. So George Clooney was sitting right about here, and Tim Blake Nelson was there. And the shot from earlier is where John Goodman was sitting when he notices them talking. All right, so you see Pappy O'Daniel sitting here on the left. This is their break room. So there's like coffee and there's also printers in here, but right here is where Pappy O'Daniel, the incumbent governor, and his crew were sitting. This piece of furniture was also in the movie. This is where they kept the utensils and everything in the fine dining restaurant. So this is the only scene with John Goodman in it that I was able to find. So if you know where that pond lake thing is, where they were at the tree and he steals all their stuff, let me know where that was if you're a Mississippi resident. Okay, so this room, part of the tourism office, is called the Rose Garden, and what's interesting about this room is these shelves, I was told last time we were here, are the shelves that were in the store where George Clooney tries to buy Dapper Dan, but they didn't have any. They've since painted them white. They were still, wood color when they filmed the movie, but apparently the production gave these shelves to them, and they've been actually using them as shelves since. So right now I'm walking up to Cedar's Plantation, which is in Natchez, Mississippi. And this was Pappy O'Daniel's mansion in the movie. Can't really get up to it. I think it was a bed and breakfast at one time. I don't believe it is now because it's hard to find any contact information online, but I'm just gonna see what I can from this angle over here. There's a little bit of an opening. So the property manager who works for the people that own this plantation, she saw me and asked what I was doing, and I was telling her I was trying to do a video on our Brother Where Art Thou locations and that I was looking for Cedar's Plantation. And she said she couldn't let me go up to the porch today because they're actually working on filming another movie here. And apparently in downtown Natchez there's a Christmas movie being filmed. So right there is Pappy O'Daniel's porch. This is the best angle I'm gonna be able to get. And that's it for this location. All right, now we're back in Canton, Mississippi to break down the political rally scene, and it starts right here when Everett and Delmar hop out of the back of the truck. You can see these buildings right behind them. The circle window was not there at the time, but we can see the line here with that circle on top of it, and then these three windows, the tree, not there at the time. And then they head up to the political rally, which happens right in this square, right outside of that courthouse building that you might recognize from Time to Kill. So let's see what shots we can match up. They are kind of redoing everything, and I'm gonna do the best I can to match things up without getting kicked out. So let me hurry up and do that. So right over there is the Canton Tourism Office. It's just trying to give you some bearings here as to where the bandstand was. It was right here to the left of the courthouse, facing this direction. So there's a gazebo here, and I think there's one opposite it. But this is where the bandstand was set up, and I'll show you their perspective looking out from the stage. All right, so looking over the band down at the crowd of people all standing out here, we can see the building with the columns on the front right in the center. And that's how we know where the stage was situated. Plus we've got an angle here of Homer Stokes I'm gonna try to match up. All right, I think I've matched this up okay. This is about the angle you get of Homer Stokes waving the broom up and down, helping out the middleman and sweeping the stage clean. We're looking up at the courthouse. Well, we're back in Yazoo City, and it looks kind of like this scene is just down the street from the Canton Square, but this is actually about 40 miles from downtown Canton. This is right down from where the bank was, just a couple of blocks. That's over to the left, but this is the Woolworth building where George Clooney goes to find his wife, and we see Vernon T. Waldrop for the first time. Right here, you see the doors in the background when they are fighting. And then here we see these columns behind Penny and Vernon here. The building was built in, I believe, 1908, she said. So the whole downtown burned down in a fire, and in 6 months, they built all of the downtown buildings, including this one. So the lady that owns the building, her name is Susan, and her dad used to own it. He owned it in 1999 when they were here filming the movie. And this is the Woolworth store for My Brother, Where Art Thou? All right, guys, now we're in Vicksburg, Mississippi at the Southern Cultural Heritage Foundation. This is such a cool town. Vicksburg is really hip. There's a lot of Civil War history, a lot of architectural history. It's a really beautiful town to come walk around. And today we are going to be touring the Southern Cultural Heritage Foundation, which has an auditorium. It's a former convent building. The auditorium part of it was used for Homer Stokes' political banquet. Let's go in. All right, guys, this is amazing. We are inside of the auditorium, and this is where the Soggy Bottom Boys come in from. They enter this door. I don't want to get too bogged down in the details, but we see this light switch here, and we see the window there through the back. Come across this way, as the camera turns, you see that staircase. On this wall right here, there's an old calendar. Maybe this thing was holding it up. And then George Clooney uses his guitar to push these curtains out of the way, and then here we are in the auditorium. How amazing is this place? Guys, this is one of our favorite filming locations of all the movies that we've ever done. Because of this building, there's so much history here, every aspect. I mean, there's the pop culture history, A Brother, Where Art Thou shot here, some other things shot here too. I think Lifetime was here like a week or two ago. But the history of this building is so fascinating. It was a convent that allowed anyone in. They had basically an open door policy. And if you didn't have enough money, they were going to figure something out. If you weren't the right race at the time, it didn't matter to them. If you weren't the right religion, it didn't matter to them. In fact, there were protests out on the streets of people that didn't like that, but they didn't care. They said the school is for anyone and everyone, and I love that. So lots of great history here, the pop culture history, and some haunted history if you're into that sort of thing. But we are assured that all the ghosts that live here are nice ones if you believe in that. So come visit here. I think it's either $10 a person or $20 a person, and the people that run it are so nice, Janice and Stacy. Just a great place to go. So come visit here and you won't regret it, especially if you're a big fan of Our Brother, Where Art Thou? So if you stop by the office, they've got a couple of things in here, and one of them is some wall decor, the Homer Stokes for Governor poster that you see on the walls on either side of the stage. And they've got a couple of framed photos from the set when it was all decorated for the movie. Okay, if I can concentrate while being death stared at by these 5 people on this painting, I'm going to show you some cool pictures they pulled out for us. Some behind the scenes stuff here and some angles showing us where things were. Let's look at this one up here. You got the people sitting in the front, so we can see exactly where they were. Of course, we got the sweet tea being served as a cake. Here's George Clooney standing with some crew people. I really love this one because right here, this guy in the middle, that's the guy that says, "It's the Soggy Bottom Boys." And you can see where the camera crew was and all that. This woman looks to be taking a picture of the stage with maybe a disposable camera. We've got some extras. Some more extras. This must be where they were booing Homer, and look at the camera there, shooting on film. That's the cool thing about this movie. It was entirely shot on film, but it was also entirely digitally altered. The color correction, very famous for that. Of course, Roger Deakins, the director of photography, directed by the Coen Brothers, who are in this shot. So cool of them to pull this out and let us see it. So if you would like, you can become a member of the Southern Cultural Heritage Foundation. There's multiple levels. I think we're going to join. And there's also events. So the Over the River Run comes up early October. One of the longest distances across the Mississippi River is right here in Vicksburg. So you run across the bridge and back, and there's a 1 mile run and a 5 mile run if you're a runner. Also, if you want to find the entrance to the place to come take the tour, it can be hard to find this parking lot, but it's a little opening. It's an uphill right there off of Adams Street. So look for that, turn left into the parking lot, go into this building, and the office is right to your left. All right guys, that's gonna do it for another video, but not before one last location. This is the final shot of the movie, and you see the Deakins mural there on the wall. I think that was painted for the movie, and the reason my guess is that is because the town of Edwards was given $2,500 to be in the movie A Brother Where Art Thou, and they were also, quote, allowed to keep the art and some of the props and stuff. So I'd love to know where the props are, but this Deakins sign is visible behind them as they're walking. And then let's go and check out the last shot. Wait, hang on a sec, I forgot the camera. All right guys, well thank you so much for watching another video, going on another location adventure with us. Love this movie so much. It is very important to me. I feel like a strange connection to it, so it's just really cool to come down here and see all the spots. Again, thanks for joining, and if you don't mind, it would really help us a lot if you click the like button and if you comment. It helps the algorithm know that we need to share this video to more people. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, and if you haven't subscribed yet, give us a chance. Go on some more movie location adventures with us, and we will see you next time.